I've developed my gearbox further, and now it can drive to an exact position. So when I say, for example, go to 90 degrees, it moves to exactly 90 degrees. And exactly how I did that, which sensors I needed, which encoders, which motor, and the whole control system, the software. That's what I'll show you in this video. So with that, welcome from the 3D printed gearbox to a self-leveling drive. Of course, I ran into a few problems again. And for example, when I was testing it, the gearbox output here, after I let it move back and forth 50 times, had drifted slightly. So the software was showing 0 degrees, but the gearbox was actually at 2 degrees by then. So I had errors somewhere in how the whole system was reading the values. Let me start where I began. Basically, the gearbox should be able to level itself automatically, just like the 3D printer behind me, which, before it starts a print, runs each axis out along X, Y, and Z, then knows where the 0 position is and can drive from there to wherever it wants to go. And that's exactly the function I want to build right into the gearbox itself. In the end, it should look like the one I'm already holding in my hand here. Over the course of the video, we'll go through everything, the 3D printed parts, the software, and the electronics. In the end, it should do 3 important things. First, drive to an exact position, 90 degrees for example. Second, align itself. So I started, it drives to the 0 position first and automatically figures out where that position is. And third, it should be able to swing back and forth between 2 angles. Here I've roughly laid out all the parts we need. The brain of the gearbox, the thing that controls everything in the end, is the Raspberry Pi Pico. You can already see it tucked away here. It'll control the motor encoder and also receive USB signals from the PC. So we can say, for example, on a little piece of software on the PC, go to 90 degrees. On the side here, you can set the current, depending on whether, say, a NEMA 23 motor is fitted or a NEMA 17. Second, you can set the steps here. So the more steps I set, the more it needs for one full rotation. The smallest option here is 400 steps, for example. Then it needs 400 little steps to make one full turn. Then up front here, I've fitted my planetary gearbox. I've shown that in another video already, from front to back, how it all goes together. The 1:49 version is fitted here. So, if in this example we've got the motor that needs 400 steps for one full rotation, plus the gearbox at 1:49, then we need 400 times 49 steps. Now to the interesting part. I still need a sensor. Something in here that detects when the output is at a certain position, and that's my 0 position. And for that, I used what's called a reed switch. When a magnet pulls it in, the switch closes. Current flows, and our Raspberry Pi Pico in here can detect, okay, current is flowing now. The switch has been triggered. In the next section, I'll show you which parts I had to adapt. On the planetary gearbox, I modified 2 parts for the sensor and the magnet. Then I'll show you which parts I designed new to house the Raspberry Pi Pico and to route the cables through here. We've also got more connection points here for expansions. For example, for more 3D printed parts, or for 40x40 aluminum extrusion that we can plug in here and bolt down. I started the development here on the ring gear, getting the reed sensor in place. For that, I designed a little recess on the inside of the ring gear. I had to redesign it several times too. Here, I've laid out a row of the different development stages. At each stage, I made small further improvements. Here, for example, this little recess at the end, so the sensor sits perfectly Y and I can bend the wires around it. I always printed just a small section of the ring gear each time, so I wouldn't waste so much. The cable routing, Nung 2, which runs along the outer skin of the gearbox here, I redesigned several times because at first it didn't quite fit. Then it had to be printed in mid-air because I can't use supports there. This is what the final version of the ring gear looked like, printed in PLA plus here. The counterpart to the sensor is the magnet. Now I still have to integrate it somewhere here in the output. I've already got 3 bolting points here, so I just add a little recess where the magnet goes, plus a little cap. And the cap is then held by the screw that's already holding the 2 stages together here. That way, I save myself an extra screw. It's a bit simpler, and I use what's already there. The holder for the magnet, but also the holder for the sensor, I had to redesign individually again. At first, neither was deep enough in. With the magnet too, I had the problem that I wanted it really tight and precise. Then it was too tight, and I had a slight edge, so I just made it a bit deeper again, so now the magnet with the cap sits over 1 millimeter deeper. Then I've got enough play that nothing sticks out. The last thing I had to prepare was melting in the heat set inserts here. Here for the Raspberry Pi Pico, and here for the motor encoder. The bracket and the gearbox can be bolted together there. On the back here, there are extra cutouts for the screws that are already in the gearbox. Otherwise, there are various more bolting options here. 5 to 15 in total, depending on how big the load is. 5 is usually enough, but you can use more to spread the load a bit better. Then I got to the wiring. I installed the Raspberry Pi Pico here on the back, on the threaded inserts meant for it. The encoder I can bolt straight on here too. So that we can level the gearbox automatically, I connect the 2 cables coming from the sensor to the Raspberry Pi Pico. One cable goes to ground, the other goes to one of the free GPIO pins. That way, we can simply read out later whether current is flowing between these 2 pins, between the GPIO and the ground pin, or not. Depending on that, the magnet is either in front of the sensor right now, or it's somewhere else. Then we still have to connect the encoder to the Raspberry Pi Pico. 3 ground lines are coming out of the encoder in total. I bundled them all together and soldered them together, so I only use up 1 spot here on the Pico. The other 3 cables coming out here are 1 for the step signal, so 1 pulse equals 1 step. The second cable is for the direction the motor should turn. There's either a minus or a plus on the signal, and depending on that, the motor turns right or left. And the third line is the enable signal. That is, whether the motor is on at all or off. On top of that, the encoder gets a 24-volt connection here, over this cable. That mainly supplies the motor with power. The Raspberry Pi Pico is powered over a USB line now, which we also use to send the signals later. I'm already planning an upgrade where we drop the USB line, switch to a Raspberry Pi Pico with a Wi-Fi module, and make the gearbox available over Wi-Fi. Then there are 4 more cables coming off the encoder here. Those are the cables coming from the motor. They each have to be connected to A+, A-, B+, B-. For that, you'd best pay attention to the colors on the motor and the description that comes with it. It usually tells you which color goes to which category, whether to A or to B. After I'd wired everything up neatly, I printed a nice lid that closes it off so the cables don't fall out anymore. Then I put a cable sleeve around it here so it just looks a bit nicer and cleaner. So we're ready now for the software and the testing. I'll show you in a moment which errors I had and what mattered a bit with the software and with the Raspberry Pi Pico specifically. For the control, I built 2 little pieces of software. One for the PC and one for the Raspberry Pi Pico. The PC one I'll show you in a moment. With the Raspberry Pi Pico, there's a special feature. I basically split the software into 2 parts. One part only takes care of the motor control, so it sends the signals to the motor. Now drive, stop, go this direction, go that direction. And the other part only takes care of processing the signals from the PC and reading the sensor. And because the Raspberry Pi Pico has 2 cores, the 2 programs can each run on 1 core and they don't interrupt each other. That's especially important here because when the motor gets a signal, drive, but then the USB signal gets read first, then it briefly stops, then the sensor gets read, then it still doesn't keep going, and then a signal gets sent to the motor again. They'd keep interrupting each other because the software can only run one thing after another. But this way, we've got both in parallel. The first version of the software on the PC was still pretty simple. I had it programmed without a big GUI. Let's be honest. Of course, I used Claude here too. If I'd programmed it myself, I'd probably have needed 2 or 3 hours to write all of it. With Claude, it's 1 query, 2 or 3 queries, it takes 10 minutes and it's done. You can look it over. Does it work? How does it work? And the first function we want to test is the home function. So we let the gearbox output keep turning until the magnet reaches the sensor triggers, and sends a signal to the Raspberry Pi Pico. That's our cue. This is the new position, and from here we can calculate everything else. And so that we get a slightly more accurate value here. You can see I had the output drive slowly to the sensor 3 times, so we get a good average. Because the sensor always triggers a millisecond, a microsecond, faster or slower. And that way, we're on the safe side here. That also explains this spread value we see here. That's basically the measurement from the motor. How many steps of difference there were between the individual measurements. And maybe you saw it. The gearbox always drives forward a bit first and then back to the sensor. In case the magnet is already over the sensor, it drives away a little first and then always approaches slowly from one direction again. Just to get a consistent, even measurement across many cycles too. Second, the gearbox should drive to a specific angle. For that, I've got this field here in the GUI. You can type in the angle and then hit go. Then the gearbox drives exactly there. And as we already worked out at the beginning, with every step the motor turns, it covers about 0.02 degrees. So the software can then calculate how many steps it has to make, or rather how many steps the motor has to make, to reach the angle you want. Then here in the GUI, you can see one more little extra function. You can also set the speed. Depending on the motor though, you have to check a bit what the maximum speed is. In the end, you can just test it too. Keep feeling your way up, and at some point you'll hear it. The motor just stops turning at all if the speed is set too high. Here with the NEMA 23, it's around 2000 Hertz that I've set now. With the NEMA 17 motor, it's probably up to 4000. That one can definitely turn faster. At first glance, this already looks pretty good. We can drive to an angle, that works. The question is, does it also work if we do it 50 times? Surprise, that's where the problems show up, but I'll show you that now. In the software I built in the pendulum mode for that. Here too, we've got a few settings again. First, which 2 angles we want to swing back and forth between. Right now, for example, between 0 and 90 degrees. Then we've got an option here to set whether we want to swing back and forth infinitely or just twice or 5 times or 10 times, whatever. Then another field to add a little pause. So when I've arrived at 0 degrees, for example, it now pauses for 1 second in this case, and then drives to the next angle again. And with those parameters, we now start the first test. And what do we see now after 20, 30 cycles? A little drift. So the output isn't quite where it's supposed to be anymore. The software thinks, okay, now it's at 0 degrees, but the output is actually already at 1, or rather 2 degrees. And the longer I let the test run now, the more it shifts too. That's kind of the standard problem with an open loop system. So our software never knows and never gets any feedback from the motor, where exactly it is. We can only calculate it, but if something goes wrong now and the motor doesn't do exactly what the software thinks, then the two just aren't in sync anymore. And the software no longer shows what we see in reality. Now the question is, of course, what's causing it? And the most obvious idea I had now was that we're somehow losing a few steps at the motor. So the gearbox needs too much force to turn, even though during testing it actually turned fairly easily. But maybe somehow when it makes the first steps and sets off, maybe too much force is needed there, and that's why it loses the first 1 or 2 steps. Basically, like with the 3D printer too, there I can also set the acceleration, how fast it accelerates from A to B. So I've now built in an acceleration ramp here too. In the software we can again adjust that a bit, how fast it should accelerate now. Say our maximum speed is 2000 Hertz, for example, and we start at 200, and then it keeps accelerating until it's at 2000. And with the new settings, I tested it again. I let the gearbox move back and forth around 50 times again. And of course, here too, it shifts a bit more slowly, but it still shifts. So we've still got this little drift. And it actually surprised me a bit now because there's really no weight on here, and the motor should have enough force. It's also got enough current that it really shouldn't be losing any steps now because too much force is needed here. One thing I'd noticed though, no matter whether I was swinging between 0 and 90 degrees or between 0 and minus 90 degrees, it always drifted to the left, or depending on your point of view, to the right. And the only thought I had left now, and the only possibility that's really still open, is that something in the signal control here, from the encoder to the motor, or from the Raspberry Pi to the encoder, isn't working right. So what's probably happening? The Raspberry Pi always sends a signal to the encoder when the motor is supposed to change its direction, and also when it's supposed to drive steps. And when the motor is supposed to change its direction now, then the signal comes, it gets sent, and then the signals come again that it should set off. And here's the problem. The signal that it should change its direction comes, but then the signals are already coming again that it should set off. The motor hasn't actually changed its direction yet though. So it first drives 1 or 2 steps in the wrong direction, only then turns around and drives in the right direction again. So every time I change direction, I lose about 1 or 2 steps. If that was the problem though, it's easy to solve. For that, I added a little delay here in the software. Every time we change direction, the Raspberry Pi Pico waits briefly, a few millimicroseconds, and only then sends the next step signal to the motor. With those settings, I let it run again, and lo and behold, it doesn't change its position anymore. After about half an hour, this test was still running on the same position, just like it should be. So that seemed to be the original problem. With that, we've now got, I think, like a pretty cool gearbox that we can use for the next projects. We can level it automatically like a 3D printer, and then use it for all kinds of robotics applications, or also whenever I want to automate something, align something, maybe an antenna or whatever, I can use this now. And if you don't want to miss what else gets built and which projects come next, then subscribe to the channel.